Hi, scholars. Welcome to today's history lesson. We are on lesson number 6. So, our objectives for today, what we are going to learn about and accomplish in our work today. We will be introduced to Portugal's roles in exploration and colonization. So, you'll see today that we're moving into some of the countries in Europe and how they were involved in exploring and colonizing other parts of the world. We will break that down specifically into Portugal and learn about 3 explorers and their travels for Portugal. Although Portugal was a small country, in the 1400s, it began an ambitious quest to discover what lands and people lay beyond Europe. Thanks to Marco Polo, there was now more information about Europe, Asia, and Africa, and European countries were interested in exploring these areas that had not been very well known. A Portuguese prince earned the nickname Henry the Navigator because he sent so many ships down the West African coast and to the islands in the Atlantic Ocean between the continents of Africa and South America. One of those islands, for example, a group of islands is called the Cape Verde Islands that you'll hear about later. So Henry the Navigator did not go on these journeys himself. He instead paid other people to go. Why was he interested in doing this? Well, he believed that he could get large amounts of gold by trading with people in the African kingdoms. Unfortunately, Henry the Navigator and the Portuguese royalty were also interested in making money from the Arab slave trade. This had been going on for nearly 600 years. The Arab slave trade, similar to Roman slaves that you will learn about in Latin class, most people became slaves by being caught in a war or caught breaking the law. Occasionally, some people would even choose to be slaves if they were starving during a famine. The Portuguese, however, were the first people to enslave only dark skinned people. They began the unjust tradition of enslaving people because of what they looked like, rather than as prisoners of war or criminals. Of course, slavery has never been okay. It has always been wrong to take away any person's freedoms. Unfortunately, the Portuguese made a bad situation even worse. Even though these Portuguese sailors and traders had lost their sense of justice, we are still going to study them because the journeys of their massive ships did have a big impact on the rest of the planet. One of those explorers is Bartholomew Dias. So Dias and his crew traveled in 1487. They sailed far beyond where anyone had sailed before, and they stopped at various ports along the way. These stops were marked with stone pillars that the king had supplied to show that the Portuguese had made a stop there. When stormy seas forced the fleet of ships offshore, they accidentally sailed to the southern tip of Africa. So you can see that on the map, right? They went around the tip of Africa by accident, right? Because of a storm. Now, they were excited to find out that you can actually sail around Africa and not fall off the earth, but they were also a little scared. No one else had ever gone this far before. So their fear caused them to turn around and they went back to Portugal. So that area of Africa is now today called the Cape of Good Hope. So Dias and his crew accidentally found out you could sail around Africa. Once they found out that you could sail around Africa, it was just a matter of time before Portugal did it again and extended the route to get closer to the Spice Islands. In 1497, Vasco da Gama traveled the same route with 4 ships. He sailed around Africa like Dias did, but then continued on to India. They did some trading along the way in Africa and in Calicut in India. Their journey back to Portugal took several months longer than it was supposed to take, and many crew members died of scurvy. Scholars, scurvy is a disease caused by not getting enough vitamin C. Vitamin C is found in fresh fruits and vegetables, which the crew members did not have during this many month journey. As a matter of fact, so many crew members died, they had to set fire to one of their ships because there wasn't enough of a crew to sail all the ships anymore. Yet, this voyage was called a success because of the trade that they had done and because of how far they had extended the route beyond Africa. So, Vasco da Gama's most famous for the many crew members who died of scurvy. So, they returned to Portugal. It took them almost 2 years, over a year and a half, to make their voyage. And the last explorer I want to talk to you about today is Pedro Alvarez Cabral. Because of the success of Da Gama's trip, Pedro Alvarez Cabral was given a fleet of 13 ships when he traveled in 1500. He was supposed to follow Da Gama's route, right, around Africa to India. Stormy seas once again, and a wrong move a little too far southwest at those Cape Verde Islands near Africa. It caused him to get off course, and he ended up reaching the coast of Brazil in South America by mistake. Cabral and his crew stayed there for 10 days, where they interacted with the native people who were living there. They sent one of the ships back to Portugal, telling the king that they had found a new world, which they claimed now belonged to Portugal. Never mind that there were already native people living there. Then they continued on their voyage around Africa to the Indian Ocean, as they were supposed to do. As they rounded the tip of Africa, 4 of their ships were lost at sea. Then more ships were lost as they traveled back to Portugal after their visit to India. Only 4 of the ships actually returned to Portugal on this voyage. As you can tell, these journeys were very dangerous. Many men lost their lives on board the ships, and many people were enslaved by the Portuguese. Today, we can still see the footprint of the Portuguese explorers in the number of countries where Portuguese is the spoken language by many people. These countries include Brazil, Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, and Equatorial Guinea. So, scholars, thinking about those objectives for today, right? We were introduced to Portugal's roles in exploration and colonization, right? Portugal was the first to be known to enslave people simply because of what they looked like, right? Simply because of how they looked. And we learned about three explorers and their travels for Portugal. Just to recap kind of the big things for those three, right? We had Dias, he and his crew accidentally discovered you could sail around Africa. This hadn't been known. Then, shortly after that, Da Gama followed that same route and got to India, but had many crew members die of scurvy. Scurvy, that disease that is a lack, it's caused by a lack of vitamin C, right? Not getting enough vitamin C. And the third, Cabral, right, made a slight wrong turn at some islands near Africa and then landed in Brazil, right? This new world that they didn't realize was there. Claimed the land for Portugal and continued on their journey, right? So think about those three big things that happened with those explorers. That's what you learned in today's lesson. Your final thing to do, open that attached Google form to answer the questions about today's lesson. Remember, you can go back to this video for any help with questions that you're not sure about. Remember, click submit at the end of the lesson. It's at the bottom of the Google form, a big submit button. That's what sends your questions to your teachers. Thanks for joining me, scholars. Good luck with your assignment, and we'll see you for the next history lesson.